You're listening to the Today in Manufacturing podcast.
Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Today in Manufacturing podcast. With me today are Jeff Branke and Anna Wells. We each have about 15 years of experience covering the manufacturing industry. Each week, we take the 5 most popular stories on our website and discuss the implications they might have on the industry going forward. Before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. Finally, if you want to reach the podcast, you can reach any of us at Jeff, David, or Anna at IEN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. How you doing this week, Jeff?
Awesome, man. How about you?
I am feeling good. You know, we had a little banter beforehand, so I'm feeling like a little keyed up.
You're fired up now?
I am.
The juice is flowing?
It turns, juices are flowing. Anna, how you doing?
I'm fine.
Juice-wise.
Yeah, great on the juice. Yeah. Lots of juice.
So you're on the juice?
Yeah.
You admit to being on the juice?
What is the juice?
I don't know, but I'm feeling it.
Metaphor? Or?
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to tell. I definitely wanted to say that before we started, Jeff, our confrontation last week got a couple of people concerned, and I said, sometimes the parents fight, and it's still okay.
Parents fight? Well, wouldn't it be more like brothers type thing?
Sometimes brothers fight,
That's
Jeff.
better. I feel more comfortable with that.
I mean, it's a new world, Jeff.
Are you getting a divorce?
It's not your fault, Anna.
Oh, man.
You didn't do anything wrong.
It is hard to hear that. But nothing was really wrong until you came along.
Everything. Proud to be the wedge to drive you two apart.
All right. Let's jump into our first story this week. New cars and missing features. What can you do? You'll likely know about the chip shortage, which is hurting automakers right now. However, there's another trend that can further complicate the new car buying process. Some automakers are limiting and even ending features that aren't possible without chips. For example, heated seats, touch screens, USB ports are all out. And some buyers might not think to look for them until they're driving off the lot. The missing features vary depending on the brand, and some fortunate automakers have been less affected by the chip shortage and aren't cutting features. Most GM SUVs and trucks will not come with heated seats or heated steering wheels, which, seems really important right now since as we're recording this, it's between 0 and 1 degree in Wisconsin. So heated everything for me. GM responded by saying that it can retrofit heated and ventilated seats to vehicles, missing them at no cost starting in mid-2022. Other examples are BMWs that don't have touchscreens, Mercedes-Benzes that are missing massaging chairs, and Nissans. Yeah. Those are out, though. Those are out. And Nissans that don't have nav systems. Some manufacturers are offering credits for missing features. Others, I guess, and just hope you don't catch it.
I guess. Poor car buyers, man. It's like if you're unlucky enough to have to buy a car right now, it seems like you're getting screwed right and left. Price, choice.
Oh,
now,
yeah. They're more expensive than ever and they have less than any.
Yeah, now you don't get maps or I don't know. I mean, and some of these seem like some of the ones you mentioned, maybe a little bit more ancillary or disposable features massaging chairs or whatever. But the heated seats thing, I mean, I'm a coddled baby. I need that. It's freezing here.
Yeah.
But the navigation stuff, that's a pretty big deal, right? Everybody uses that maybe on a daily basis. I don't know. It's something drivers really rely on at this point in time. MapQuest doesn't, I don't know. No. The days of printing out a map and setting it on my passenger seat are over.
Oddly enough, my dad got a atlas for Christmas. Never been happier.
Yeah, who's printing that?
Just the comfort of having it in the car apparently is enough.
I guess.
No, but it was, he got it and we all opened it and it's like, hey, look, roads.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hey, look at this.
Roads.
All the interstates, all the interstate highways.
Yeah.
I would not be pleased to take ownership of a car that was missing features. And it, Edmunds is saying people aren't being charged for these missing features, that the automakers are acknowledging that they're not there, blah, blah, blah. But you hear these reports of these insane dealer markups right now. I don't know if you guys have seen any of the reports on some of the Broncos, what they're selling for. I saw a couple in Florida were selling for $100,000. The markup was
were they older or newer?
Tens of thousands of dollars new.
Wow.
But I think it's a good reminder that manufacturers don't actually set the price on a vehicle. They suggest it. They sort of set that baseline. But dealers, in a market like this where supplies are scarce and, there's a lot of buyers, then they're, I guess, well within their rights to beef up those, build some fat into that price. But, in the end, like if you're really missing features, like I do think that you are actually paying for those. I don't think anyone's getting out of that really. So
no, that was my understanding too, is that you are paying for it, but then they're offering credits. So, you have $100, $500 towards putting back into other various features,
True.
Which kind of seems like a little misleading. Like,
sort of, yeah. Well, and I think overall my point is like, if you're already overpaying for the vehicle, I mean, I don't know. You're not getting a good deal here if you're missing features in addition to that. Even if they say they're going to give you a credit or whatever, you're paying more than that car is probably worth to begin with. So that's difficult. So I don't know. I mean, it's not good if you have to. Like we've talked about this a few times in the podcast. Like if you can wait to buy a new car, do that. Wait,
Jeff, is this a time for old manufacturers that still have the plates to, fire up the hand cranks for windows?
I mean, weren't we just talking to somebody? That's what they wanted.
Their kid wants a car with windows with cranks.
Man, I don't even know how you find those anymore. You gotta maybe find a Rambler. Back in the day. Pretty unique. So there's a chip shortage, you say?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's affecting things in the automotive market.
It's been in the news here and there.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Man. So, I think what's interesting on a couple of fronts, I guess the first things I thought of is, what about resale values for these vehicles?
True.
Once we eventually sort of get through this crazy time in a couple of years, if you do have a vehicle that either needed to be retrofitted or didn't come with some of these things that at one point in time were considered stock options, what does that do? I mean, we're already looking at potentially this weird sort of product life cycle where things are overpriced, but when they return to normal from a supply perspective, is the value going to drop even lower? Because it doesn't have, some of these other creature comforts that we've kind of come to expect a little bit.
Yeah.
The other thing too, with this chip shortage and with these types of vehicles, you kind of wonder how this is going to affect potentially the EV market too. On average, they're going to use more chips than a standard vehicle. So if you buy an EV where you're used to having more of these electronic elements attached to it, just because of the nature of the car, is that going to hurt EV sales potentially if they don't have some of these other bells and whistles that you're used to seeing? I also kind of wonder too, are we going to get back to when we're evaluating car purchases, are we going old school? I'll be honest. I get lured in by a lot of the creature comfort stuff. We were looking for my wife's truck. Man, she needed the heated seats and the heated steering wheel. She was so used to it. We went up, we had a base model option, and then we had the loaded one. And as soon as she saw, no heated steering wheel, that definitely swayed her choices. So it'll be interesting how this affects things on a lot of levels from a purchasing perspective, I think, and for how long. I
mean, you have to imagine that the bottom's going to drop out of those models because it's not like everyone's going to get a pass like, oh, well, that's a 2022. And so, it doesn't have like an ad system. But, I paid more.
Well, it's almost like those will be the bullet points, right? In the ads, when you're looking at everything they have, maybe it'll be like, yeah, it's a 2021, but, doesn't have this stuff.
To me, it sounded like this was almost like a pre-recalled vehicle where it's like,
right.
You're buying a new vehicle that they will put in these systems once they're available.
Right, but think about how long it takes you to actually get your car fixed when you get a recall notice too.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. It's like, we had a tire sensor recall, but we didn't get the new sensor for, 18 months. Until it was, so, I mean, it's very similar, but like you said, for some people that are in a pinch, they're going to be stuck with these.
So I have a weird tip that I read last week. About GM and how they had sold 9 Impalas in the fourth quarter, 9 only.
Whoa.
And so I guess the story was that these were the end of the model line, so they discontinued the Impala, right? So these were actually produced in 2020, so they were like 18 months old, brand new cars that were just sitting in inventory.
Probably got a good deal on them.
Right, you would think, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, I was looking at the comments on this auto blog because it just was an interesting story. And some of the users pointed out, I thought interestingly enough, that they said that an end of production model is sometimes or often found with like extra features because either they have a bunch of extra inventory of the stuff that, from leftover from the production.
Yeah.
Or they just want to load up the vehicles to make them more attractive, just to get rid of them, right? Yeah. So I guess if you're looking for something particularly feature rich, look for a vehicle that has been discontinued.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Never really thought of that. All right. Our next most popular story this week. Apple places iPhone factory on probation. Workers at Foxconn's iPhone factories in India have been protesting poor conditions, everything from food poisoning to unlivable housing. As a result, Apple put Foxconn, quote, on probation. The move comes after independent auditors confirmed the concerns, which caused a work stoppage in mid-December. A company spokesperson, an Apple spokesperson, said, quote, we found that some of the remote dormitory accommodations and dining rooms being used for employees do not meet requirements, and we are working with the supplier to ensure a comprehensive set of corrective actions are rapidly implemented. You know, I'm a sucker for these statements. 250 female employees suffered from food poisoning. More than 150 were hospitalized. The factory, to put it in perspective, employs 17,000 people, but still, one is bad. When a company is placed on probation, that means it won't receive any new business until the issues are resolved. Anna, I feel like this is one of those situations where both companies need to put on a public face, but maybe nothing's going to change.
Yeah, protests over food poisoning. That's horrifying. I mean, the fact that these people live on site and 150 of them were hospitalized, that's pretty nasty stuff, whatever was going on there. I mean, my first thought, and I saw this reflected actually in one of the reader comments below the story, but after all the issues that Apple's had with Foxconn, like, why is its policy on policing these factories, like, not more proactive? You know, you think, like, after the fact that they go in and take a look, but there's been problems over the years in varied locations and not just India. And it's, I don't know, to me, I think like because it's not ever impacted Apple's brand reputation, it's maybe difficult for them to put in the effort to try harder. I don't know. I was like looking back on their sales figures and, you know, remember like Foxconn had those facilities in Asia that had so many problems with overworked employees that lived there. And they had such an issue with these people taking their own lives that they had to put up nets and things outside of the buildings, the dormitories, as a deterrent. And it sounds crude, but that was just a really horrible reality.
Yeah, not as a deterrent, but to catch people.
To catch people. Bodies, well, that's what I mean. Like, it just would not affect it, right, as a mitigation. So, and that kind of started in like the 2010-ish time period. So in 2009, Apple's sales were $42.7 billion, after which they began to vastly increase the volume of business they were doing through Foxconn. In 2021, Apple's sales were $365 billion. So from 42.7 to 365 since 2009. So their sales obviously don't reflect the kind of like consumer backlash that you would expect from seeing a key contractor treat their workers this way. Yeah. Which is too bad because you know what I mean? Like,
I completely agree.
It's too bad because it's been well publicized. It's been continuously happening over the years. Something is wrong here. Nobody's paying attention. I don't know what's going on.
No, it made me wonder, are some brands untouchable? You know, and I feel like Apple's one of those brands. Nike has appeared to be one of those brands as well. And Jeff, I was curious, you know, for a while we were thinking, you know, when the issues with the nets being installed, we thought maybe Foxconn wouldn't be able to survive without Apple. But do you think maybe it's more Apple can't survive without Foxconn?
Potentially. You know, I did some research here and looking at this whole dynamic. I don't want to get too far down this wormhole of low-cost manufacturing in Asia and India and stuff like that. But let's look at just a couple of facts here from the Reuters article. First of all, these women were making $140 a month. 10,500 rupees a month. The average, or the median wage, I should say, in India is 16,000 rupees a month. Now, they were also paying for these dorms where a half dozen were sleeping within 100 square feet. These dorms or whatever they were.
They were paying out of that 140?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
They're paying for their dorms. They're paying for that rotten food. Okay. So it's not a wage that even by a lower cost, lower standard of life in India, that was even amenable. Yeah. Did not give them the ability to do much more than pay their bills, unfortunately. But when Foxconn comes into these areas, they've built a dozen factories in India over the last 5 or 6 years. they're able to get in 15,000 people into these factories and work there because these individuals know if they can get through this and they can get to a management type position, they actually can make a decent living there. Okay, they can, but what do you have to put up with in the meantime?
Yeah.
So 16,000 rupees a month is a median wage there. They're well below that. That equates to, on an annual basis, 16,000 rupees, just under $3,000 a year. Okay, not a lot.
Yeah. No.
Foxconn is has $190 billion in revenue on an annual basis.
Yeah.
Okay. If they employ like 1.3 million people around the world. If they gave every single person $1,000 increase, which would actually get them to an amenable standard of living, it would be the equivalent of 0.6% of their annual revenues.
Gross.
Yeah. It would be equivalent. They would take about a 2.6% hit on their profits. This is a fixable problem, is where I'm getting to.
Right. Yeah.
Foxconn is huge. This is not just a small, low-cost manufacturer someplace in the middle, in the East, in China or India, okay? This is a big company.
Right. Yeah.
They can fix this, especially when they have partners like Samsung, like Apple, and all these other big consumer electronics companies. So my point is, it wouldn't take a ton to fix this. The other thing that's frustrating is you don't hear anything about local government getting involved because they're petrified of Foxconn. Because Foxconn could pick up here, go someplace else at the drop of a hat, make the same empty promises they do to a new municipality, get their factory built, bring in all those people, and not skip a beat. If somebody really wants to fix this, they can. They don't want to.
And at what point does this become like, I mean, I know they're not jailed, but like this is so close to like forced or not coerced, but like slave labor.
It's an indentured servitude almost. Yeah. That is what it is. I'm sorry.
No. That's, I'm glad. Thank you for putting it that way, because I was trying to figure out, like, it's certainly not, I wouldn't call it employed or a job, you know?
I'm sure that there's, if they're there on their own free will, and, obviously the regulatory system in developing countries, it's a little bit more lax in these situations. So,
but do either of you, just like simple yes or no, is this something that would even make any Apple consumer think twice about buying Apple?
No. And here's why, the reason why. Because when I look at it, I get really frustrated seeing all these things, and I own an iPhone. Okay. I got a couple other Apple devices. I know that if it doesn't work out here, they'll find it another place. There's always a lower cost manufacturer that will take this work on. If it's not in India, it'll be Taiwan, it'll be someplace else. So that's the frustration. And what it takes is somebody actually giving a crap. Yeah. Okay. Foxconn is big enough to care. They are. They want to grow. They want to grow their manufacturing footprint in North America. They're going to have to start addressing these things, you would hope. Apple is big enough to care. Yeah. So are these other consumer electronics companies. Now, should we as consumers care more? Yeah. Yeah. We should. Do we when we go to buy something? No.
Yeah. That's could be an interesting spin on the too big to fail, as if they could start promoting big enough to care. We're going to start trying now.
And like I said, you look at these numbers, it would not take a lot.
Yeah, would you say 0.6%?
Yeah.
Anna, I'm assuming it's a no from you too.
I think we can move on. Yeah.
Oh, that's somehow sadder than a no. But all right. No. All right, our next most popular story this week. New GM electric truck faces competition and skeptical buyers. General Motors, the former top-selling U.S. automaker, after 90 years, unveiled the Chevy Silverado Ev at CES in Las Vegas. The the Silverado Ev reportedly has a roomier cabin and better handling than combustion trucks. The Silverado, like competitors, also has the ability to power tools on the job site, tow trailers, and even power a house when the electricity goes out. The initial Silverado work truck will have a 400-mile range, and it can also handle direct current fast charging to get up to 100 miles of range in 10 minutes, which helps ease some of the EV anxiety. GM is now working on details to build the charging station network. Now, the early retail version, the RST, will start at about $105,000. Lower range versions will be available at around $40,000, which is more in line with electric trucks from Ford and Tesla, but they will also have a much shorter, sometimes half of the range. Anna, your thoughts on the Silverado EV that was kind of shown off at CES this week?
Well, I would like to address the skeptical buyers part of this. I think early adoption of technology is complicated. So the typical pickup buyer was described, I think, by GM as a gearhead, right?
Right.
So they said that this person knows exactly what's under their hood. I'm not sure if that's true anymore, maybe as it was before. Now that 15% of vehicles sold are pickups, there's a lot of, we see them every day. Just because you're driving a pickup does not mean you are a contractor. There's lots of corporate people that have pickups. I think there's a pretty large market outside of that.
Yeah. No, I think it's more like a soccer dad also.
Right. So I don't think it's that people are so committed to the internal combustion engine. I think that they just want to see their neighbor drive it first. It's $100,000 vehicle,
Yeah.
It's new technology. I think there's going to be some bumps in this transition in terms of people accepting these as being equal or better to what they already have. And I'm pro EV, but I don't know if you remember when the Prius first came out, there was tons of weird pushback, just anecdotally and in the media about these little dumb bubble cars, and they were for tree huggers, and they definitely had a reputation as being for a specific buyer, right? And I think those early drivers of those were those people. They were willing to take a gamble on the environmental factor of that vehicle. Then after a few years of seeing that car perform, then they started going in fleets and stuff as businesses were looking at the business case for them. You don't have to rely on a resource like gas that's prone to really abrupt price fluctuations. People were saving money on gas. And so then you saw sales of the Prius between 2006 and 2012, more than double. But it took a while, and I don't think that we should expect that the first model year of an emerging technology is going to be its most successful year. That doesn't even make sense. Yeah. So, and I also think that the demographic of pickup buyers is not maybe the EV early adopter. You know what I mean? I definitely know that these automakers want to get into that space because these are their most profitable vehicles. And so they want to make electric versions of them because look, now they have two, Yeah. And sell the hell out of them. But it's not going to be right away. I just don't think so.
Well, Jeff, I think part of the issue is going to come. Everyone's going to see the specs for that 105,000 version. Then they're going to go out to market to get that under 40,000 version. And they are going to be surprised and disappointed at the much shorter ranges.
Potentially, it's interesting because a lot of this release or a lot of this story really talked about the work truck and the contractor and stuff like that, and all the cool stuff that's on there, for plugging in tools, plugging in generators, all that kind of stuff that helps at the work site. Yeah, which is great. Okay, yeah. It's very cool. It's good stuff to have, but again, for that price point, and that's not for everybody. So it will be interesting to see how those factors sort of work in concert or against each other. Yeah. As far as how that goes. The part that I also found really interesting was a part of the story where it said, to ease anxiety over running out of juice, the truck will map a driver's route, showing the optimal charging stations along the way. That talks to me about infrastructure, which is what people do have that concern about running out of power in the midst of doing whatever. Taking a family vacation. In this case, this person was referencing deliveries and stuff like that.
Yeah, they had to deliver at a site that was 400 miles out.
Yeah. So if we're going to see more EVs, and we've talked about this before, there's going to have to be a lot of infrastructure investment to support a growing fleet of electric vehicles. We look at some folks talking about $125 billion. The Washington Post actually quoted this number that by 2030, in order to support the growth, talked about 12.5% of vehicles potentially being EVs by 2030. It's $125 billion in grid infrastructure investments that are going to be needed. So are we there for those things? Found another stat here on the International Council of Clean Transportation. They said to support an electric vehicle stock of 26 million vehicles in the U.S. by 2030, public and workplace charging will need to grow from approximately 216,000 chargers that we had at the end of 2020 to about 10 times that by 2030. So addressing those factors, I think, are also going to play an equally important role in trying to grow confidence and acceptance of electric vehicle technology, whether it's a truck, a car, whatever.
That's what, I sort of mentioned it in the recap of this article, but one of the things that I liked was they were talking about, was it 10 different or 20 different companies? I think 10 different companies that they're working to build that sort of network of charging stations. Now, the one question I wanted to ask is this going to be too late to market? Because we're talking like it's not really going to be available to the public until like fall next year. And so there's going to be Rivian, maybe the Cybertruck, maybe the Ram, definitely the F-150 Lightning. Yeah. I don't know.
I think truck buyers are very brand loyal.
Yeah.
I think, especially when you look at the F-150, they're buying a Ford truck.
Yeah.
Silverado, they're buying that Chevy truck. I think that plays a big part in it. Yeah. Now, over time, I think you make a great point. Yeah, especially Rivian, which seems to be making a lot of progress and doing things the right way. It's refreshing to see that in an EV company startup. So I think there could be some interesting dynamics there.
Yeah.
In terms of how that impacts things. But I think there's a lot of brand loyalty there where if they say it's coming, I think there may be Silverado owners that can handle
wait
that.
for it.
But if you think about it, when we talked about Ford doubling orders for that F-150 Lightning, 75% of those people were new to the Ford brand that had reservations. So, that's a lot of play in that potential market.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to ask just real quick is, are we going to stop at the electricity station in like 10 years? Yeah,
instead of the gas station.
Yeah, instead of the gas, I'm sure it's going to be the charging station, but I just prefer it be like, I've got to go to the local electricity station.
Well, if I have to plug in and wait for like 10 minutes, I'm going to be buying a lot more Quick Trip cheeseburgers.
Oh,
that is not great for my
I know. Like you're just going
well-being.
to sit in your car and just like house cheeseburgers.
And lottery tickets. Just like I'm going to be covered with the scratch off dust.
Well, I'm curious how the infrastructure picture changes, knowing that people will have portable chargers with them and they will also be able to charge in their homes because you don't have that with gas, right?
Yeah.
So I would think that changes the picture a bit. Like if it's me and, I'm driving my EV to work every day, charging it at home, I don't really have the need for charging infrastructure unless I'm going on a long trip.
Yeah.
Like it's different from how I would use a gas station, right? So it'll be interesting to see if that influences like the number of what is in reality needed. I know you need to install certain outlets and all that stuff in your home, but like locally, I know the utilities will pay or not pay, but they will install those chargers for free in your house just because they're then your fuel provider now. You know what I mean? So to encourage people to use electricity instead of gas, but.
I think there'll still be the grid need though, because then you're siphoning more power off the grid. So even if you're plugging in at home, there's still
definitely. I agree. I just meant like the charging stations aspect of it. Like what does that change? I'm not sure.
I think it's going to be like remember the craze with the McDonald's Playland that came out? Because that was when
this is clear. Yes.
Yeah. So so for travelers, when you are going on a long distance trip, you would wait to see the signs to see McDonald's and whether or not it said Playland underneath.
What you're saying.
Yeah.
Because it's like I want to eat and my kids need to burn off some energy. So it's going to be like McDonald's Playland and charging station. So those are going to be
so for every Playland there will be a charging station and then that's how we know how many we need.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. It just makes sense because I was trying to think of what, the new electricity station is going to look like. And I was thinking it's going to look like, it's going to look like a Starbucks, because people are going to need to hang out for a bit.
No, you're right.
And even Quick Trip, the nicest gas station that I've ever been in, I don't want to be there for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like 10 minutes is a lifetime.
Oh, I could spend 10 minutes in there for sure.
After this, we're going to go to Quick Trip and I'm going to time it. And I feel like around minute 6, you're going to be like, fine, you win.
I will be meticulously selecting each donut.
I'm bagging the whole dozen by hand.
You got a question with this charging network though potentially needed. Tesla's got the best network right now.
They do.
Are they going to play well with others? Or is this just going to be like you got to be a Tesla?
You got to have like a different,
You got to have like whatever the version of an iPass would be to get into the Tesla charging station.
I feel like that's something that at some point is going to take some sort of overarching regulation where a charger is a charger regardless of the car. I don't know.
Yeah.
Then again, we wanted to see that with consumer electronics, and that certainly hasn't worked out. All right, our next most popular story this week. Mercedes prototype can travel 600 miles per charge. Mercedes-Benz recently unveiled the Vision EQXX, a 4-door electric sedan prototype that could set a new standard for EV range. It goes more than 600 miles per charge. Mercedes will test drive a prototype in coming months, and while some components might start to be marketed, it's really unclear when the EQXX will be available. The company will invest $45 billion in electric vehicle operations, including 8 new battery plants through 2030. Jeff, is this just another marketing claim that no one's really ever going to have to fact check?
I think hopefully I'm not reading between the lines too much, but this seemed like a direct sort of volley at Tesla.
Definitely. Yeah.
I mean, they're definitely coming out with a 600-mile range. The problem here is that they said it's based on internal digital simulations.
Yeah.
So
That's my favorite.
sketch.
yeah. We're testing it. It's looking really good.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that Tesla has built, we talked about this last week, they've got this brand that everybody's attracted to. It's easily identifiable with electric vehicles and the certain prestige and everything that comes with it. So I think it's almost like some of this was Mercedes reaching out and almost trying to get Tesla to respond, to bring them into that same category.
Yeah.
Like they're saying, hey, we beat you. We got 600. The best you're doing now is like 520. Come at me a little bit.
Which
here.
Tesla isn't even doing yet. I mean, that's the same thing with Tesla too. They're like, well, we can do it, and we're kind of doing it in our factory. But
Tesla's a little closer. This is a big swing.
It's a big swing.
Great.
Yeah.
600 miles. Not really sure if it's ever going to see the market, but the parts we're designing, maybe.
That was the other part. The parts are going to be available. The car,
Yeah.
not sure.
And
Not
also,
sure.
like, why are we should we put a press release out about this? Yeah, we should. Like, okay, the timing of it is just, I don't know.
Well, it is an awesome looking car. It's basically
Yeah.
like they took a 911 Porsche and just stretched it out a little bit, chopped off the spoiler. I mean, it looks cool.
Yeah.
I like the way the prototype looks. If it were real,
I mean, sometimes, CES wasn't necessarily a certainty this year. So once it was actually green lit, they just walked around the office like, who's working on anything somewhat tech related?
We have to get there tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm thinking I could do 620. And I wanted to say that according to Car and Driver, it's officially 620 miles for the range.
Okay.
So
on their
hypothetical range is
according to their
hypothetically
digital,
longer. Yeah. Anna, I know that we like to talk about some of these PR moves here and there, but like we talked about, this one seems further from reality. I mean, maybe not as much as my lizard lungs last week, but it's still a stretch.
I don't know. We don't know, right? But to me, it's interesting because it speaks to the sheer speed of development that's happening on the battery side. And I think it's exciting because some of these gains have been made because everyone's kind of working towards the same goal at once. Which you look at the vaccine development, it's nothing goes that fast unless suddenly the government is dumping billions of dollars at it and everyone's working on the same thing at once, But that's kind of what's happening with batteries. Like everyone's on the same timeline of trying to get this figured out. And so I don't know. If you think about the top tier of the EV range was 250, 200, a couple years ago.
Oh, yeah.
So I honestly can't wait until the flood of EVs hits the resale market that are 200-mile range cars, and they're going to be super cheap and I'm going to buy one. They're going to lose their value so fast on resale, right? Because this is moving so fast. So I'll be interested to see how that actually plays out in the next couple of years. I've talked about it before, but I think because of this insane flood that's going to happen in the next 2 years of brand new stuff and the technology now being so elevated just a couple years ahead of what it was before. Yeah. I'm going to buy one of those old ones and just laugh all the way to the bank.
What was that switch?
As you...
No, as people say, laugh all the way to the bank. What was that switch where all of a sudden, I mean, it seemed like even within this year, we talked about automakers kind of dipping a toe, coming out with plans, forecasts for 35, 40, but it just feels like everything ramped up incredibly the last year. Is it because of the incredible, subsidies that seem to be coming out as a result of them? Is it market demand? I don't know.
I think it's a lot of pressures that have been put on the automakers, whether it be from regulatory bodies, environmental groups, stuff like that. Also reading the writing on the wall. They got to do it at some point. Yeah. So might as well start earlier than later. These types of things also, with Mercedes throwing this out there, I think gives them a chance to say, hey, we're doing stuff.
Right, exactly.
We're involved in this. We're investing $45 billion in EV operations. That's a great thing to claim to and be able to point to, and also keep you in the public's sort of in the mind's eye when it comes to the discussion on these types of vehicles.
Also, if you're going to stretch on the range, they said it tops out at 87 miles per hour. Well, that's specific to the powertrain, but it just seemed like.
Yeah, for a Mercedes, that's low.
Yeah, just not a lot of juice.
Come on.
Not a lot of juice.
Lame.
All right. That's what it took.
How fast is your 200-mile range EV going to top?
I don't care. Do you guys think I ever go over 70? I don't.
You should.
I would actually, I don't, maybe 70 seems still high for you. Like,
I'm not as boring as I appear on TV,
we could like,
but close to it, but not as.
we'll pick up the kids from daycare and drag race at our 45 mile per hour clip down a frontage road.
How do you pull the car over from 70 when you have to like literally pull, when you're like, I will pull the car over?
Oh, you don't. You throw the arm back full of like goldfish while you're screaming, and you can feel the heat from your wife's eyes on you, just like, shut up. Like, and then, you calmly collect yourself and say, this is their problem. They caused this. This isn't me. No, this is a hypothetical situation that I'm envisioning and haven't at all lived.
Of course. None of us have.
Right. And I mean, or raisins. That's the only difference. Maybe it's raisins.
Or raisins.
All right. Our most popular story this week, courtesy Anna Wells, Inventor unveils Lickable TV prototype.
I am sorry
Let's do
for
it.
bringing this to the table.
Meiji University professor Homei Mayashida has invented a prototype device that's designed to bring a multi-sensory viewing experience to your TV. And he calls it Taste the TV, or TT TV. It uses a carousel of 10 flavor canisters that can be combined to mimic the taste of food. The flavors are sprayed onto a hygienic film across a television screen and appropriately licked. While it seems unnecessary, TTTV allows isolated people to interact with others around the world in a safe way. Anna, would you lick a television?
Too many T's. I'm going to say that first. Why so many T's?
The 3TV.
Yeah. No, I would not. But sometimes it's hard for me to see the benefits of some of these technologies when you consider how intelligent these people are and what they could be doing otherwise. But I know a lot of people said this is weird and unnecessary, and it also is that for me.
Yeah.
But I do think it reinforces the importance, kind of to your last point, of tech developments for the disabled or the isolated. Like when you consider how much of tech development is targeted towards able-bodied people, this could really have some applications for someone who is like homebound, bedbound, who has mental health issues like agoraphobia, who we want to enhance experiences for those people as well. So, it seems weird and gross because we've never seen it, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it's not. It's like...
It is.
Yeah.
It definitely is.
If it adds like that extra like sense modification for people who would otherwise never get to go to a restaurant, or who might benefit from an interactive game or a taste test that they would not, that's what he said, like maybe like taste test games or something like that. It seems very niche, but I think we need to look at the massive benefit that can come from helping to support or boost like people who have mental health concerns and maybe live alone or can't go anywhere. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to look at it that way because I know it's not something that I would use, but but somebody would use it maybe.
No, I definitely understand those implications. What were your thoughts, weird or gross, on the severed fake tongue they used in demonstrations to slap at the screen?
Yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't like
really.
I didn't like looking at it. I didn't like thinking about it.
Yeah, Jeff, when they were putting together that video, at what point are they like, do you know what would really illustrate this point? We need a fake severed tongue that we can slap the screen with.
They just wouldn't stop doing it.
They wouldn't stop slapping the screen with that fake tongue.
Nailed it. Nailed it. Somebody that's made their career on that.
We're talking about it.
Yeah, I'm just glad this is where we are as a society, as a civilization. The final frontier in technology that we had to figure out was how do I taste my TV?
We have enough engineers doing regular things.
Yeah.
We need to figure out this TV tasting
We don't
thing.
need to figure out how 5G is not going to crash planes.
No.
We don't need to figure out any of this. We ran a story too about 5G, about possibly, the emergency medical button, can mess with that.
Oh, yeah.
Let's not worry about that.
No.
Yeah.
Let's not worry about any of those other things. We have to be able to lick the TV and get something out of it.
I think we have
First of all,
climate change pretty
how-
much figured out, right? So let's
Yeah.
just move on to this tongue thing. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the only thing that's backwards about this is why are we licking TVs? We know that we all want to just lick our device.
First,
Gross.
Well, I mean,
TTTD.
Really?
That's
yeah.
coming soon.
Yeah, I'm just saying they should have focused on the phone because
What
I
an-
mean, like,
that's just such an unnerving visual to see somebody, hey guys, you got to check this out. Lick my TV.
think of the Super Bowl parties. I mean, it's just like when
Oh my
the commercial
gosh.
comes on and it's just like, hey, bro, do you mind if I lick your TV real
Yeah.
quick? Those
Yeah,
wings,
you
like,
got to check this out. I just got the new taste canisters for the latest Doritos flavor.
yeah, no, it's right. It is really like they brought the original Cool
Yeah.
Ranch back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Also,
you can mix
clean my
Cool
TV.
Ranch and original too. It's amazing.
Original.
Nacho cheese.
Jeff.
What
What do you know about Doritos?
What don't I know about Doritos?
Well, delectable corn-based treats aside, seems more like a stopgap in technology. We've covered a couple of stories that this professor has done. He did. It was like he did a flavor pen that you would touch to your tongue, and you could get different sensory. He's done this with a number of different products to try and enhance food flavors. But it seems like a stopgap to me because when I think of the people that it will benefit the most, those that are homebound or otherwise disabled,
Yeah.
I think of the advancements of like neurological technology, like Neuralink, that, once we get the correct brain mapping to a computer, like that's just going to go directly to your brain.
Okay, but I would almost rather lick a TV than have like a brain implant.
Well, I mean, that's your choice.
Depends on what the implant can do.
Yeah, you can buy a
I think
TTT
If it's
from
only
Goodwill.
taste related, then I'm licking that TV.
I think I would echo your sentiment in that I hope this is the thing that leads to the thing.
Yeah.
It's a start in terms of going someplace else. One thing I think could be kind of an interesting application, maybe if I could get over licking a screen, would be
You can get over
when you
it.
come up with something new, like a new food product.
Yeah.
Maybe you could get a feel for it before you made it or bought it by having this as part of the promotional campaign. I don't know.
Well,
amazing.
there's like a very limited number of professional flavorists that are available in this world. Do you need like a professional flavorist to sign
To
off
like
on this?
mix the
Yeah, to
the
say
can.
like,
yeah.
no, that doesn't taste like almond milk.
Well,
I'm
and would you
sorry.
trust it? Like, I mean, he said that he was going to try to like offer unique flavors from restaurants that were across the world so people could try something that they would never get a chance to eat. But like, do you think those chefs are like, yeah, this is exactly what it is like.
By just putting in these curry canister, you'll get
Yeah.
a great flavor.
This is a
of,
great commercial for my product.
One thing that I did find interesting was he talked about a flavor database where different tastes could be downloaded, kind of like they re-download music and movies today. And that to me sounds interesting as a person that likes to Google random things.
I guess.
So, when I'm reading a book with my kid and I want to, Google the sound that a giraffe makes, we could also smell it or potentially taste it.
Taste the
giraffe?
giraffe. Yep.
Well, I don't know. It's a whole new world of sensory education.
It's even harder to swallow when, sorry.
This is as good as when you were talking about tree huggers and you actually made the hugging motion.
Yeah,
Did you notice
that's
that?
how you do. I didn't
Yeah.
notice, but
you were talking about that, and you're over there with your green sweater on, making a hugging motion. It was perfect.
I just want to hug it so bad. We are like living in this time when we're not even supposed to like touch our own faces, and then we're like being pitched this technology where we lick. Like the grossest thing ever would be like to lick your phone. I mean,
the grossest thing ever would be if you're at a restaurant ordering off of those digital menus and you can lick those menus
to try it.
to try and see it. Like, do I want the bloomin' onion? Hold on, let me lick this clearly unclean, covered in filth. But
it's a hygienic film.
yeah, it's a hygienic film. That's what's going to be the one that you think we're having a problem getting
Yeah.
rid of the vid now.
Yeah, this
Imagine
is-
when you got to lick your
Everybody
menus.
Everybody at the World Health Organization just like
I know.
fell over.
Coming to a TGI Fridays near you.
Right? Do you think you want the surf and turf? Well, lick the screen. Oh, all right. I mean, I requested a sample. We'll see if it comes through.
A TTTV.
Right? Also, work on the marketing.
Too long.
All right. Well, let's move on to In Case You Missed It. The stories that, maybe weren't as popular on the websites, but could stand to make a big impact on the industry moving forward. Jeff, I wanted to start with you this week. What is your In Case You Missed It?
All right. So I've said this before. I am fascinated with this Elizabeth Holmes deal, this trial, everything. I've watched the documentary, I think it was called The Inventor, about her and everything. And so we ran an article talking about, will Silicon Valley learn from this conviction of Elizabeth Holmes in terms of the fake it till you make it dynamic that you've talked about a lot? The overall assessment of the article is probably not. No. They're still going to make these outrageous claims to try to get more investors and more excitement around this. The more I learn about this, and the thing that I hadn't thought about as much until we really got into a lot of these electric vehicle startups and talking about, hey, it's kind of hard to make a car or a semi.
Oh, yeah.
She had no medical background, none at all.
Yeah.
And yet somehow they saw this 19-year-old dropout from Stanford University who was going to change the medical world.
Yeah.
And the fact that she was able to manipulate this for so long, at one point being worth over $4 billion on paper, cover of Forbes, Time, everything. And the thing is, there's all these mistakes, and she's awaiting sentencing. It's probably going to have to wait until the other individual from Theranos, right, that they're going to try him first and then probably sentence them both. Yeah. So she's going to wait for a while, but she could face up to 20 years in prison for all this. And the end result is, investors will probably look a little bit harder before they give people money, but they're still chasing that golden ring.
Oh, yeah.
It's really not going to have an impact. And it's just a shame because think about all the viable engineering projects that we have talked about on our site, in all of our videos. And those folks are doing things from an engineering background that they have an understanding of the product they're trying to develop, and they have trouble with funding.
Yeah.
And somebody here who just came up with a really cool idea, had no idea how it was going to make it happen, faked it way too much, never made it. And it's, there's no lesson learned, essentially.
No.
It's kind of disheartening.
When I just picture these investors and they say they're fired up, but I feel like behind closed doors, they're just like, you can't win them all. They're like, you can't win them all, but kind of sucks for Liz. It seems like she's going down for it. And I mean, one of the big things that I got from watching the documentary about it was that, she happened to be able to bilk a lot of people out of money just because of, her hubris, her personality, her charm, and she was attractive. Like, that was a big part of it.
Well, and it's I get kind of caught up and you wonder what the mindset is. I think a lot of these people are just sociopaths. They just don't care. They have no emotional connection to the wrongdoing and what they're potentially doing to people. I really don't think that was as much her. Yeah. I think there were other people like that in this organization. Her and the other individual, what's his name? Sonny Balwani. They're both taking the hit on this. There were other bad people in that company, without a doubt. I think she was always very open with the fact that she was doing this for financial gain. She wanted to be rich. So that was a big driver for her. I think she just got into this so much that she convinced herself that this was going to happen.
Well, that it was possible because it was it would have been a remarkable breakthrough if they could have made it work.
And when you're that young and you've got all these people throwing this much money, you must be thinking like, well, all right, I can do this.
I agree with that. I mean, I think like that kind of pushed her forward probably, maybe failure was appropriate and no one was letting that happen. She was pushing people. There was no due diligence in people looking into.
And I don't make it sound like I'm defending her in any way, shape, or form. She deserves whatever she gets. But just a fascinating
it really was.
It's not the last time. We will talk about the same story with different characters.
There will be another Theranos
within 26 weeks.
Oh, so many, yeah.
All right. Mine, in case you missed it this week, was one of the stories from Engineering by Design. Robot is more centaur than humanoid. And I realized initially when I pasted that into the notes that I kind of really missed on that headline. I'd sometimes have some good ones, and that one just didn't do it for a lot of people.
Oh, you just didn't think that it was a good headline?
No. I had
here's your second chance. What would you do?
Let's do it again.
I'm just going to jump into it.
Redo time.
And then hopefully come up with a better redo. Beomni is a humanoid robot from beyond imagination. The remote piloted robot with incredible dexterity was at CES 2022 this year. The robot can stack bricks, make eggs, use hand tools, and even administer vaccinations, but all kinds of medications. The idea is to use it in challenging environments. Now, users can train up in it in just a few minutes and steer the robot using a simple VR headset and special gloves. Kind of look like that Nintendo glove. Another interesting part of Beomni is its AI brain. So over time, the AI brain is going to learn how to do these tasks first through the help of humans, semi-autonomously, but then kind of like the flavor database, it's going to build a database of these actions and one day potentially be fully autonomous. I just thought that's an incredible advancement. They show some pilot studies with it interacting with the elderly, and it was a big success in terms of it being a constant presence because, there is like a human aspect behind it when there's a human pilot that's interacting. The other thing I thought about is just no way am I letting this thing give me an IV yet.
Yeah, maybe your headline should have been like robot administers vaccine after minutes of training.
That was one of them. I had like the vaccine medical angle, but I thought about last week where I was just like, man, we already talked about, just the word vaccine now, and you immediately get 100% of people are angry one way or the other.
Because you said vaccine.
Yeah, it's just, but no, I don't know if you guys had a chance to see this robot. And I said centaur because it seems like they did a really careful job of making a humanoid torso and then kind of just got a box with wheels on the back end.
I didn't see it because the headline was so bad I didn't click. So
I mean, you and everybody else, Anna. That's why we're here.
not interested.
It's all right. It was just a waste of my day. No.
Whoa!
Oh, and not just mine. I got to waste other people's time too. Sorry, producer Alex.
It was not a waste of my time, David. I clicked.
Thank you,
and
Jeff. I
looked at
support
it.
your work as well.
I like the remote piloted element of it.
Yeah.
Oh, the autonomous robot doing some of the things that they're talking about, that would still freak me out.
Yeah.
But I will say this, when you talk about doing the IV, sometimes I would trust a machine more than a person. I've seen some pretty shaky hands coming at me with those things.
I've been doing this 80 years.
I have some flashbacks when I was in the Army and we did a combat lifesaver course. And one of the things you have to do is actually stick an IV and in case somebody gets dehydrated, they can hook up the saline solution and all that.
Yeah.
And man, it was a bloodbath. You had people coming in there trying, no like medical training before, like me.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, come on, let's see if I can find a vein.
Oh,
and
man.
insert the needle and hook up the IV. I got decent at it.
Yeah.
It wasn't too bad. But I was also the lowest ranking guy, so I got stuck like 5 times.
Oh, I was going to say, this sounds like some Squid Game sort of game. Just like partner up. All right, give each other IVs.
This was the military training.
Oh my goodness.
But hey, we all got certified and we're all good to go. So if I can recertify and you're up for it.
I didn't know you could do this. I'm getting IV bags.
Yeah, for softball maybe.
Yeah, we need to get hydrated some mornings.
The one thing I think, this headline, it wasn't this headline. I actually like the other story a little bit better.
Yeah.
I think you picked the wrong story. I think you should have done the flying saucer one.
Yeah.
Because I know we were debating that. But I thought that was really interesting. If you get a chance to check out the video, the one talking about using the saucer on other planets and how it's able to move and gather stuff, I thought that was really cool as well.
No, I had like some flying saucer internal conflict as well because I just ran that saucer story that we talked about a couple weeks ago. And so I'm like, could this be oversaturated saucer coverage? So that's why
Too much saucer.
That's right, it's too much saucer. So instead I went with the, obviously
saucer.
more popular centaur.
You want the weak saucer story.
I want the saucer.
You're making your friend uncomfortable right now by arguing.
Oh, sorry. Not to make anyone uncomfortable. This is just jovial back and forth. All right. Before
pissed.
anyone gets uneasy, Anna, what's your in case you missed it this week?
Before we move on, do you want any more feedback from me and Jeff about how you could be doing your job better?
Yes, Anna, let's go for it. Oh no, seriously, if there's a
Is
real
Carrie
thing.
watching? Maybe she could chime in on a couple things too.
If there's something real, you're going to have to let me know. Otherwise, I won't be able to sleep tonight. Because I'll just be like, she said it as a joke, right? Maybe? I don't know.
But there was
I should text her tonight at 11. What'd you mean?
Just a joke. Nothing there.
I'm sure.
Nope.
That was a very nervous laugh.
I know. I got like just that was like a general anxiety laugh with like a professional advancement laugh. So it just really got muddy.
Whatever I can do to ruin your weekend.
Oh no!
All right. So Riddell, the sports equipment maker, has developed a football helmet that might be the next big step in design and player safety. So it's called Axiom, and it's a personal fit helmet designed and manufactured player by player rather than position by position. So according to the article, Axiom's features are based on data and designed to improve impact response, reduce head impact exposure, and deliver unprecedented protection. So it's pretty cool. The news comes on the heels of the autopsy. I don't know if you guys saw this, of that former NFL player, Philip Adams, who took his own life after killing a family, kind of inexplicably in South Carolina. I think it was in South Carolina. Yeah. But it was revealed in December that his brain showed what was described as unusually severe CTE, which is that degenerative disease that's linked to head trauma. And we see this, I feel like, over and over again, right? Players who are kind of risking their lives for this game, and it's become, to me, like kind of a dark cloud over it. I'm a football fan, but I think people are finding it increasingly hard to ignore this as a byproduct of this sport.
Yeah.
So that's good news, I think. I think the big challenge now is finding ways to incorporate these kinds of improvements into like lower levels of these programs with smaller budgets. Like this helmet Axiom is said to cost about $750 a piece, which you can see why. I mean, it's customized for each player, right? But you're not putting that helmet on a high school football player, even, D3 college program.
Sure.
So if there's a way to kind of, I don't know, scale the technology so it becomes cheaper, or find a way to incorporate that into some of the other programs, I think that would be great. This could be a big change. So sorry, I feel like that was kind of like a positive story, but also like kind of a downer. So
it's not a downer. I find it to be a positive story because I love the NFL. I love football. And, one of the things that, there's a constant fear about is CTE for anyone that's played it for any amount of time.
Right,
because
yeah.
I come from a time when you were trained to lead with your head.
Yeah,
your head was a weapon that you should have used. So any sort of, and you like to see this for the NFL, but like you said, you like to see this be able to trickle down to, we have real conversations about whether or not our sons will even be available, to play football, because it's like, as much as you love the sport, there's just way too much potential bad results as a result of the repeated head trauma.
Yeah, a couple things with this. First of all, you would think maybe 3D printing could help with some of that price and scaling and stuff and bring it down. If I had a kid playing high school football, I would definitely look at getting something like this. Yeah. You remember what it was like in high school when we got our helmets?
Oh, yeah.
They were
there
ridiculous.
There was a pile.
You got them and you put them on, either it was super tight, or it was and you wanted it a little loose, which is horrible for you.
Yeah.
How many times, I can think of at least once or twice that I can remember, shouldn't joke about it, but today, if that happened to me, that incident, I would not be going back in the game. I just kind of played. And that's a Division VI high school football. Oh, yeah. And that's, one thing I will do a shout out to my high school football coach. He taught us, Lee Brame told us, see what you hit. Yeah. And that's one of the biggest things I'm seeing in the NFL and college now, especially in college with like the targeting penalties. I'm all for it because you see those guys going in with their head down, and that is how this stuff gets worse. Yeah, it could be.
Like in terms of 3D printing and 3D scanning, I almost see a product like this being like how orthotics have changed as a result of 3D printing, where you just step on the map, they scan your feet, and they 3D print a custom orthotic for your foot. So I didn't think it was a downer, Anna. I thought any sort of like technology when it comes to helmets. 100%.
For sure. Yeah. It's just some of the stuff that's happened in the last couple of years where you see people's lives have just been impacted so tragically from whatever happened to them playing football.
And not just football, but boxing, MMA, professional wrestling, hockey. When they talk about having the brain of a 90-year-old man, that's some scary stuff when the guy's 30, 40 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's move on to our final thoughts this week. Anna, what do you have for the viewers, listeners, before we get out of here?
Okay, so I need some help. It's January here, so it's horrible outside. We live in Wisconsin, and I don't want to go out there. So,
if you drove faster, it wouldn't be as bad.
It gets warmer if you drive faster.
You just need less time.
What I was getting at is send me your recommendations on HBO documentaries, any documentaries. That's my favorite thing to watch in the winter when it's like dark all the time and I just sit on my couch and under 10 blankets. So I loved the Elizabeth Holmes documentary that you mentioned earlier. I've seen some pretty good stuff recently, but I need some more input. So if anyone that's listening has a favorite, let me know. Anna at IEN.com.
Did you listen to the episode when we had Andy on, and his recommendation for the final thought was the William Hurst documentary?
No.
Yeah, it's supposed to
She
be really
doesn't
good.
listen to our stuff.
No, I do. Guys.
She doesn't click on anything we do.
That's all right.
I had a lot going on while I was gone.
It needs a better headline. Not sure about the rest of it. But he said that one was really good.
Okay.
Yeah. My final thought this week is just to do anything you do with absolute confidence and never waver. Jeff, what do you have? How did the trivia contest turn out this week?
It was good. It was really good. Got a handful of responses, and we had 2 people that won. Congratulations to Nick Thalen and Marina Bayless,
Yeah, all right.
who correctly found the response to what serious condition is suggested by clear fluid from the ears or nose? It's a skull fracture.
Ooh. Why would it be clear?
Well, it's brain
Is that
fluid.
brain
Yeah,
fluid?
because
Oh
It's
my
brain
God.
fluid.
I just, I guess any leakage, bad.
Yeah. So continuing on with that cheery sort of category of questions.
Yep.
Here we go. Here's the next one. So again, email the podcast, send it to any of us or to jeff@in.com. Here's our question. If a tooth is knocked out, what readily available liquid is best for transporting it to a dentist? Would it be A, beer,
Nice catch.
salt water, B, or C, milk?
Why are these in the studio?
So, David, when
Yeah.
Anna gets mad at you for not doing your job well enough and
Yes.
she just gets violent, knocks your tooth out, what should you put that in before you take it to the dentist? Do
Is
not
beer-
answer.
No. Is beer, milk?
A, beer,
Yeah.
B, salt water, C, milk.
I mean,
Let me know your thoughts.
so when this company gave these cards out and people read them, they had to expect, this company expects that we have at least these 3 items on site at all time.
They did.
Oh my goodness.
They did.
Yep.
They did. So, beer, salt water.
You got saltwater and milk over there?
You're gonna do saltwater shooters? Yeah. Oh, right.
And as far as documentaries go,
Yeah.
I've told you this one before, The Curse of Von Dutch. It's on Hulu.
On Hulu.
yeah.
Okay.
It
I
is a
got to
good
try
one.
that. This weekend I will.
Do the torso killer one on Netflix too.
Hey.
But make sure you got something to ease you out of that one. Don't go to bed right after that one because it gets weird. All right. Well, that is a pungent beer. My goodness. All right. Before
From
we
the
get
land of sky blue waters.
my goodness.
That's
Hams,
still
the beer refreshing.
that's still a thing, huh?
Yeah, Hams is still around. All right. Before we get out of here this week, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. Finally, to email the podcast, you can reach us at Jeff, Anna, or David at in.com with email the podcast in the subject line. Finally, make sure to subscribe to our newsletters and make sure that you get the podcast to your inbox first. All right, for Jeff and Anna, I'm David Manti. This is the Today in Manufacturing podcast. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Today in Manufacturing podcast.